Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're looking at a movie episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's in the first 5 minutes of a movie then disappears the entire movie with me tonight?
I'm the oldest man alive, Kendall Hallman.
And I am the speedster, Kyle.
I forgot.
I think that's the one element that I liked of the movie. There were a couple things I liked, but that was definitely the best. Was the Sonic the Hedgehog character?
Yeah, I liked him a lot.
So we are here to talk about a movie that I promised would be on the show like years ago, and I've been sitting there looking at the poster for like 3 years on my phone, or 2 years. It's been sitting there, and I can see it every time I scroll all the way down. I'm like, I gotta get this off. So we're here to talk about Star Wars Ewoks: The Battle for Endor, the second of the two Ewok movies, and this came out in November 24, 1985, and directed by Ken and Jim Wheat, whoever they are, because they don't even have a Wikipedia.
Nice.
So I always start these off with our memories. I've never seen this before, but apparently my wife did, because when I put it on, she's like, this is the movie I remembered, because she remembered the little girl, which this movie is pretty much the little girl.
Yeah, Sindul's definitely the star.
Well, Kendall, do you have any history with this movie?
No, I probably said it on the other thing with the first one. This was for the longest time. This is like a big blind spot for me in my Star Wars fandom. I haven't watched. I've watched a little bit of the Droids cartoon. I haven't watched the Ewoks cartoon at all, and until the last thing, I hadn't watched either of the Ewok movies, and now we've watched both of them.
See, I got to fill in a hole for you that you probably never wanted filled in, but now it has been.
No, I definitely wanted to be able to check that off the list.
Me too.
I liked the first one a lot more. Like Kyle was saying before we started recording. But I'm glad that I checked this off the list, if only to be able to say that definitively and literally the Star Wars Holiday Special is not the worst piece of Star Wars media ever made, and not without any tongue placed in any cheek.
And Kyle, what about you?
I'm the same. I have pretty much no history with this movie, which is surprising. As people know, I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan myself. But yeah, this was one I had not checked into, but I'm glad, like Kendall, I'm glad that we did the last one and did this one, and I get to check another piece of Star Wars media off my nerd list.
That's why it's here. And now I can finally say that I have watched and recorded and published an episode about every single Star Wars film.
That's pretty impressive.
So, including the holiday special. That was an older episode, but yeah. So technically I can say that now. So this movie is a sequel to the other movie that we watched, Caravan of Courage. It never says how long after it takes place. It seems like maybe a few weeks, days. Like, it's not very long.
I think the Wikipedia says 6 months.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. But also, this is supposed to take place before Return of the Jedi. So, I have questions.
It is supposed to take place before Return of the Jedi?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I mean, I could buy that Wicket met a little girl, so therefore he was, more aptitude when it came to meeting Leia. Wicket speaks fucking English in this. He did not in Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
That bothered me a lot. And I showed it to my wife, and she's like, he's not really speaking English. I'm like, just you wait. And there's the one part where, we'll get into it, but the old guy goes away, and he's like, did he go to work? And I'm like, Wicket, how do you know the word work? You're a fucking teddy bear. Like, what are you talking about work? I don't remember seeing Ewok go to the office and go, all right, time to do some typing. Like, I don't remember that scene in Return of the Jedi. So, yes, other than that, I just had to make fun of that. This is also a really dark movie.
Boy, howdy, is it. And it just, it's dark, right off the bat, too. It wastes no time getting there.
That surprised me. Like, you see her brother, who was the main character in the first movie, and I thought, you see him shooting, and then I was like, okay, he's going to be back later in this movie. You never see him again. He got killed off screen. The star of the first movie and the Mark Hamill wannabe just murdered off screen.
Yeah, which is so maddening, because he's also, his performance in the first movie was pretty good. He worked as a lead in the first movie, pretty well, and I would have liked to see him, I feel like, unless he got worse And I thought maybe he got like he was on some other show or something. No, he wasn't. He wasn't doing anything else. He had some guest appearances on TV shows in later years, and was a working actor. Looked like through the 90s, but yeah, it's not like he had another movie, or like he was he had 6 episodes of a sitcom that was canceled or something, so that he didn't have time to be in the movie. Like I don't know. That really bothers me that they.
I don't like
kill him off.
Okay, he wasn't completely killed off screen. I didn't realize how they do it. He runs into a house. They show a house get like blown up, but you don't know that it's his house. And then the little bracelet that for some reason they have a bracelet that tells when the family members die, and it shows that he died. That was fucked up.
That was pretty messed up. Like that whole like opening attack from the Marauders is crazy. It just hits so hard when the one like hits Sindel and Wicket with the axe, and you're like, holy shit! Like you just took a swing at a tiny little girl.
And they're kidnapping the Ewoks, but they kill her. I didn't realize this. I figured the family was going to show up later in the movie. No, all her parents that they spent the whole first movie rescuing, they're murdered in the first 5-10 minutes of this movie.
Right. The actress that played her mom is literally just a mannequin.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't even get any screen time. It is very clearly a mannequin that they're dragging her body. And then Mace gets a moment, and then he gets the house that he's in blows up, and then the dad gets kind of a hero moment, which it's like I would have been okay with them killing the parent, because I felt like the parents, they rescued them in the first one, so like they weren't really in it, so having those characters, if you want to write them out or whatever. But it just really bothered me that they killed off Mace. Even if they wanted to feature her, they could have had him get captured.
Yeah, I thought that he was going to show up in the cell at the end of this movie.
Right. Yeah, I kept
waiting for him to come back. I was like, all right, when does this happen? And just nope, never returns. I wanted the return of the Mace.
I mean, it's just weird to me, because this is got to be like a kid's movie. Like this had to have been like a TV movie for a kid audience. Like, they were playing on ABC. Like, why are you killing off all these characters in the first part of the movie? And you're showing the Ewoks get thrown into freaking like bone caravans to be taken away as prisoner. It's just a really dark opening, and the rest of the movie has most of the movie has a different tonal shift.
Yep.
Weird. And now I can say, Kendall, I did learn a new Star Wars fact. The first live action appearance of the Blurg, the thing that Mando rides in season 1, was not Mando season 1. It was Ewoks Battle for Endor.
Oh, yep. Okay.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That makes sense, because that's also Mando had, he did the fork gun from the holiday special. In one of the first episodes.
When I looked up the Wikipedia and I looked up the Blurgs and I was looking at all their different appearances, it did not even reference this movie. But when I looked at other information about this movie, it did say that they were Blurgs, so they ended up being the same thing. It just, Wikipedia's like, yeah, we're not talking about that movie.
Huh.
It was weird.
Yeah. I read through the Wikipedia thing. Like, I mean, this is, I forget the levels of canon. I guess C canon is like at the same level of the books, but this is barely canon.
No, I know.
It said that Darth Caedus references daughter of, is that the witch? The daughter of Elena?
Yeah, I think so, because she's a Night Sister, right? Is that what she's supposed to be?
She's the first Night Sister we ever got in Star Wars.
Our first experience to the Night Sisters, which the Night Sisters are a piece of Star Wars I feel like we have not explored deep enough. They're fascinating, and we just don't. We get like little tidbits and snippets of them, but never like heavily featured Night Sisters stuff.
Did you get the He-Man reference in this movie? Because they had to have one?
The power.
Yeah. He also made a comment at one point where I'm like, I think you're in the wrong fiction. He calls, when they talk about the power converter, they say something about crystals. And I was like, this isn't Star Trek. These aren't the lithium crystals that are powering your starships. Why are you saying crystals? But someone does say crystals to power the starship. And I'm like, did someone forget what fiction they're writing for?
Well, I mean, maybe, there's probably different ways of powering the starship. Apparently, their starships are powered by battery.
Yeah, that are interchangeable from starship to starship. Because
Well, I mean,
Dragon-
I guess to be fair, if you have one car battery, you can take it and put it in another car battery.
you're not wrong.
I mean,
to a certain degree, yes.
so maybe
From a
maybe
certain
that's what this was. I mean, they just said it was like a power. Did they call it like a power cell or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the power.
Yeah, I mean, it's a battery. I mean, it is a battery. So I mean, we don't know. I mean, we especially in 1985 or in 1984, we don't know. This is before the Essential Guide to Starships or whatever. So we don't know. I mean, it could be that they're powered with batteries.
Why
This
not?
little thing made me chuckle. I mean, it comes from the Marauders, so it kind of makes sense that. I mean, I guess these Marauders are essentially space pirate.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't really clear on like their origin and why they were on Endor or
Right.
any like what are they doing?
There's nothing.
No, I thought
And-
there was going to be like a plot where you find out that they have a ship that crashed and that's why they wanted the power cell so they could get the fuck out of here. But no, there's nothing.
No, it's just like weird, tribalism stuff. Oh, use your magic. I was like, And then now I will say, now we know where George Lucas got the Nemoidian accent, because the main guy definitely has a Nemoidian accent when he's speaking basic. But so here's the number one complaint about the Star Wars Holiday Special is that there's like 5 minutes of untranslated Wookiees at the beginning of the special. Like half this movie is Marauders running around and grunting.
Yep.
And it is. I did not know that action sequences that were like mildly competent could be this boring. Like, I started to fall asleep about 3/4 of the way through. I even did this thing that I do when I'm gonna be reviewing a movie and I know that it's gonna be. I have a feeling that it's gonna have some slow parts where I before the end of my workday. About 20 minutes before the end of my workday, I put it on to just sort of get through that first, plump of the movie. Not necessarily because a movie's bad or whatever, but because I know that I will enjoy watching just about any movie while I should be working.
I know the feeling.
And so and then when you go to watch the rest of it, then it's a more digestible amount. Whether it's slow or whether it's long or whatever. But I did that and I still I was about halfway through this movie and I was like, how much more is that? This can't be more than a 90-minute movie. How is it? No, it is 2 hours. And there's so little plot and so much grunting.
Yeah, there's just so much nothing that happens for so much.
I don't understand why they didn't give them why aren't they just speaking English like everyone else? Like, you make Wicket speak English. Why aren't you having something translated with the Marauders?
Well, man, because at the end when Tarek and Noah are fighting, he speaks basic to Noah.
Yeah, he definitely speaks basic a handful of times. So he definitely speaks it, and it's not even like it's struggling to using sentence fragments or whatever. Like he speaks basic, but they actively chose to have him speak another grunty language with no subtitles for huge chunks of the movie. I mean, it's got to be because they didn't have anybody to write quip. Because I guess that's why you have the thing that says, oh, you fell down, see you next fall. That's why you have action heroes making bad jokes so that something happens.
Yeah, all the comedy in this movie was physical gags.
It's missing that. And you are right, the action scenes here are kind of boring. With the first movie, I made that joke where it felt a lot like a Lord of the Rings film. This one, I don't know what to compare it to.
Right.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
And
it is.
It's tough to compare it. I mean, it does have the scenery shots and all that are really cool and that kind of stuff. But
right. Yeah, the stop motion beasts look pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff that looks pretty cool. The first movie looked like it was made on a $10 budget. This movie actually looks like it had a little bit of a budget and a little bit of production value, which is kind of neat, except for that it's got the problem of the Twilight movies. That I know that the Twilight movies get a lot of grief for a lot of reasons. Many are deserved, many are undeserved. But the thing about the Twilight movies for me is that the first one is really entertaining because acting is like super over the top and cheesy, and all the characters are like super melodramatically self-serious, and there's all these like kind of iconic moments of how cringe they are, and it's which makes the movie entertaining. As that series goes on, I think like the last couple actually are like there is some good writing and there is some good acting and stuff, but like the middle movies especially are like they're too good to be bad, like entertainingly bad movies, but they're not good enough to be good movies. So they just are kind of nothing. And that's kind of where this was, where the first one like made some bizarre choices. You had a weird Tinkerbell character. You had that spider that was just a plastic spider. There were a bunch of things that were bizarre. Even the like extended untranslated Ewok scenes had the hang glider and everything. Like, I don't know, there was like a charm to it in the first movie that I did not get from this one.
I think it doesn't help that this movie is also so depressing because, like, Sindel watches her family gets killed, then her friends get captured, then she's running away with Wicket, and then at one point she gets grabbed by, like, a fucking, like, wyvern for some reason. There's a wyvern in here, which did make me smile because I like dragons and wyverns and stuff, but somehow Wicket chases it with a paraglider that he's built.
I question Wicket's tactics in that. If you're chasing after someone who is being held in the air by a bird, you probably shouldn't try to attack from above to get him to drop them.
Yeah, drop.
Hey, he's an Ewok. What does he know?
But if there were more scenes like that was actually like a silly, entertaining scene. Wicket is talking, she's talking, and there's, I don't know, it was kind of cool seeing him fly through the sky, like it was visually interesting. Like, if there was more of that, as opposed to just, like, there's a really long segment where they're running where the Ewoks are running to the ship and the Marauders are chasing them, and you're already 90 minutes, you're already 100 minutes into the movie, and it's like you could have cut this all out and just, or given me some dialogue, that's why orcs say meat's back on the menu,
Yeah,
that's why,
you need stuff.
You need some one-liners there. Even if it's cheesy, even if it's bad, like, even if it's just help me, I
don't understand why they did that. Like, I didn't really think about it until you brought it up, but you are right. Like, why isn't there lines? I watched this movie in parts. I didn't watch it all at once. I'd watch like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, just because I was watching it in between my work day. And I enjoyed it that way.
There were some scenes, I think, because it's like kind of visually interesting, but not enough to hold your attention, that I almost feel like would be good if you like spliced them together into a music video, or you did a, like, if you were playing like in a Star Wars tribute act, if you were like an Ewok cover band, like that Mega Man band, except for, but like with a Star Wars theme to it. I mean, there's lots of people who do tribute acts that do that sort of thing. But you could do an Ewok song and or do a song that like tells the story of this movie and have like some of those scenes spliced together, and it would be really cool. But just as a movie on its own, just like as a thing on its own, it's just, I don't know. The music wasn't quite good enough. It was just like a lot of stuff just wasn't quite good enough to hold my attention.
Yeah, I kind of had that same problem. I mean, I watched this in two parts as well. I watched first half an hour one night, and then the other, whatever was left,
hour and a half,
6 hours
more. Which
imagine if you had to watch this with commercial.
That would be
a TV movie.
Yeah, because it aired on TV, right? On like ABC.
Yep. ABC.
Oh man. Of course, that was obviously when people had longer attention spans, and there was nothing else to watch. Like,
November 24th,
this was their Andor. Actually, no. Well, at least this was at least their skeleton crew.
That's a good show. Let's go with this was their Book of Boba Fett.
I don't agree. I'm not. No, this was better than their Book of Boba Fett. Their Book of Boba Fett was the holiday special. Or well, no,
Okay.
this isn't better than the holiday special. So that's a bad example. But I would say like this was their it wasn't their Book of Boba Fett because I liked Book of Boba Fett, but I don't think that this was like this was like mid-tier quality for, all ages entertainment made for TV movies of the 1980s. Like that's how bad TV used to be.
I feel like if I would have seen this in the early 90s, I would have liked this movie.
I think if as weird as it is to think that this is a kid's movie because of how dark and like depressing and just wild it is, I think if I watched it as a kid, it probably would be more fun because I would care less about the fact that there's no dialogue and
Right.
like you're oh, cool action,
Well, and if you got distracted, you'd be playing with your action figures or whatever. Like,
Right.
you'd watch it and you'd watch it over and over again or whatever. It'd be comforting. I think there's elements that are. I also think some of the action would have hit better, because like I said, the production value is pretty high for a TV movie from the 80s.
TV movie, yeah, absolutely.
And the costumes were pretty okay. Like it was just a lot of stuff was pretty okay, but like didn't
I am
do it for me.
positive some of the Ewok costumes in this movie are just stuff from Return of the Jedi. So,
Oh yeah.
because I recognize some of those Ewoks. I've seen Return of the Jedi enough times that I know my Ewoks.
Yeah, I'm sure. But even that's the one thing I'll give credit to the Marauders. I thought the Marauders costumes were actually pretty good. The Night Sister lady, if she indeed was a Night Sister. I need to do it. Kyle, you're also right about the Night Sisters. You're right about a lot of things, but the Night Sisters are interesting because there's a lot of little bits and pieces here and there. There's a few pieces of pretty deep lore. I think the canon version of the Night Sisters has a decent amount of lore to it between the Clone Wars and like the Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order stuff. But yeah, there's definitely. They're really interesting. I always like, Force users who use the Force differently. Although in this, it's like not really the Force. It's just magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just turns into a bird.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's got a magic ring. Like, why doesn't the guy that wants the power, it's like, this is actual magic.
Right? Like, well, and then,
Right.
I wasn't sure, why is she stuck as a raven at the end or the crow?
Yeah,
or whatever?
she gets stuck as a raven because they broke the Talesman. I mean, maybe that's their way of saying, she wasn't in Return of the Jedi because she was a raven. Even though I still want to know, when they're fighting the Empire, why didn't they go find one of those giants and bring him over to help them take out the Empire,
Well, the giants didn't want to work with the Ewoks. The giants were enemies with the Ewoks.
Or what about the Flash in here? The little, super fast monkey.
He was there, but you just didn't see him. He was too fast.
Very much possibility.
There are 30 minutes of this movie from the time that they run up to the old man's house and run into Flash to the time that they leave the old man's house and go to the castle. 30 minutes of this movie is them running around. I guess they were like, hey, we got to fill runtime, but we ran out of budget. So just stay in this house that we built for a while.
That's the one part of the movie I think I legitimately enjoyed. I liked Wilbur Brimley's performance. Yeah. I mean, because there's nothing because the movie is nothing. So you have to have. I really liked the oh man, sooner or later they're gonna want to be friends and
He's grumpy old man
and his sort of grumpy old man act and he says don't give this to the beggars out there and then he see from the get-go he sees them and he makes them the next morning. He gives them his bed, and then the next morning he makes bed rolls for him, and then he pretends like he's glad they're gone. He's like, "Yeah, I figured you needed a new bed, but I forgot what size you were, so I got two. I made two with two different sizes." Yep. I liked. I don't know. He was. It's almost like there's a reason that he's like an actor that people have heard of, and the other cast members not so much, but.
He was a cute character in this, and I mean, it just seemed 30 minutes was too long for that house that they're there for. But I did like him. I like when you find out his whole backstory that he crash landed on here, and then his friend went to go find power converters at Tosche Station and never came back.
His friend's a freaking skeleton.
And again, more dark. They're like, oh yeah, there's your friend right there, and it's just a skeleton, it's just a dead guy.
I don't know, so it's dark, but it's like Power Rangers dark. So I think that. It didn't it's like kids dark. It's like they don't, her whole family dies and then she's laughing 5 minutes later. It's. I mean, I think that actually, it hurts the plot because she never actually grieves her family. Like, she sort of,
There's that like little scene because it's right afterwards, and she's talking to Wiggins. She's like, "My family's dead. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I gotta go to school." And you're like, "What?" Friggin' 10-year-old is like, "Oh man, I'm missing school. No."
Well, I think she was talking about. I think the school. I think you're conflating two scenes because when she talks about school, is when she's sad that she's going to have to leave Wicket.
Yeah, you're right.
But
You're right.
I also I think one of the funniest lines in the movie was when Wicket said that he thought he was going to work.
Yeah, that got me.
That I thought that was pretty clever. And now, so here's the. I don't actually believe this, but if I was on a podcast 10 years ago when everybody was making up headcanons, here's the headcanon about Noah and the Speedster. So actually Noah did help with the and this is why this takes place before Return of the Jedi. If you notice in the first movie, the Ewoks don't use a bunch of traps. In this movie, Noah has a bunch of traps that he has set, and the Ewoks are.
Oh.
And then by the end of the movie, Ewoks have a bunch of traps. So Noah either set the traps himself or he taught the Ewoks to do the traps, and then
I'll buy your headcanon.
And then the Speedster helped him set it up.
I'll buy the cannon.
And he was too fast. Like you'll have like a Jessica Jones style comic where like it like retcons. It's like he was working with Rex and Hera because they were also at the Battle of Endor canonically because of Rebels. And he was probably working with those two setting up the traps. And Noah too. Noah probably showed up. Noah probably showed up like halfway through, like when everybody's like tied up, and he's like, "Yep, looks about right," and then left. He probably set the net.
Yeah, that captured Luke and Chewie.
Captured Luke and Chewie and everybody. Yep.
You're probably right.
I had never even heard much about these movies. Like, that's one thing I find interesting. Like, I grew up as a Star Wars kid, and I had friends that loved but these movies were not around. Like, they're not terrible. Like, they should have been available for people to watch if they wanted to.
Yeah.
They are now.
I'm the same. Like, growing up, I didn't know that these movies existed. I didn't know, anything about it. And I feel like I've been pretty in tune to the Star Wars universe for most of my life. And these really fly under the radar big time.
I mean, the only reason we were able to really cover them is because they're on Disney Plus. That's what prompted me to finally do it.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're on Disney Plus. Yeah, I don't know. I do think they're pretty terrible. I knew that Wilford Brimley was in one, but
they should still be accessible for like such a large franchise. I mean, you think that these would exist? Like people would have been like, oh, hey, here, this exists. Like, here's a random VHS. Right. Like, it never aired on TV again, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I didn't look this up for the record, but like, I don't think these things. I mean, they did have DVD releases. I know
they
that
had DVD releases. I know, but yeah, I mean, it was released in a pre-internet world, and and also I think it like you hear about that there was the Ewok stuff. And it was like the movies, but there was also a cartoon, and like I think like people kind of got that stuff mixed up, but it wasn't as like iconically terrible as the holiday special. Although, legitimately, I find the holiday special entertaining and fun and silly, and has it has some pretty bad moments. It has some pretty torturous bits, but it's like broken up into segments, so you can just kind of watch the segments. It's honestly one of the only times that we saw how evil, like, personally, the Empire was before Andor. Like, that's what people talk about Andor being the first time that we see the Empire, like, really being assholes. It's all about, the movies are all about the big fighting. I mean, I legitimately think that the Star Wars Holiday Special showcases, the sort of run-of-the-mill, Imperial agent who is going to go in and, not pay for stuff. And that was something I thought was interesting in Andor. The Imperials in Andor, when they go to the grain planet, they do pay for their meals. which the guy in the Holiday Special, he doesn't pay.
Not on Kashyyyk.
Whatever he gets from Art Carney. So now the ones on the grain planet, they had some other problems about about their morality or whatever, but they did pay for their meal. Maybe that's like capitalism or something.
So I found the middle part of this movie to be pretty boring, but like I liked it when they eventually go to the castle. I thought that was actually pretty fun. Like young Mike would have really, because I liked fantasy movies, especially like I remember in the 90s, early 90s, like trying to track down fantasy type movies at Blockbuster. Like I would have watched this had this been at Blockbuster. I can guarantee you I would have watched this. And like they go like I don't understand. Like this should have been available for people because I feel like there would be people out there go, yeah, you remember that Ewok movie? They're pretty good.
Yep.
Well, you had to watch weren't there like 7 never-ending story movies? You just watched all the never-ending story movies.
There's 2, I think only.
Are there only 2?
More. I don't know.
Well, then it never ends.
Funny you say that. The original name of this podcast was actually going to be the Never Ending Backlog, but that didn't happen.
I like games my mom found.
Me too. We voted on the name, and the guys that are no longer here chose the other name. I'm like, okay, which I like too, and here we are 6 years later. But yeah, I was reading the canon. Yeah, like we were saying, she is a Night Sister that supposedly was on Dathomir and left and came here. I mean, that's not, she's not canon anymore. But it is funny to me that this is our first Night Sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is she? Well,
she was canon.
She was C canon, so she was in continuity. Like the way I used to think of it is, you have canon and then you have in continuity, and then you have Tales, which is even less. Which I think a lot of the really wild stuff was Tales, is like never actually in continuity. Just like you hear some of the wild tales from from a certain point of view, those stories are not canon.
I like to believe that this movie was canon before.
But it was. Well, it supposedly was mentioned in The New Rebellion, which is a book that I read that's like 500, or Black Fleet Crisis. Yeah,
one of them, Sindel shows up.
We supposedly, I didn't notice her in the freaking 3 novels that I read in preparation for this podcast.
Did you really read 3 novels for this podcast?
I did read, I read the Black Fleet Crisis in between because I looked it up. That's right. Because while we were podcasting, I was seeing it, like, where do these guys reappear? And it did say that she's mentioned only in the Black Fleet Crisis trilogy. And nope, I did not find her anywhere in those 3 books. By the way, the Black Fleet Crisis, very good if you want bad Star Wars, like bad Star Wars EU. Just be prepared. The Luke story goes nowhere, and the Lando story goes nowhere. So just be prepared. It's the closest thing that I've been to angry at an EU novel. The way that they messed with the way that they made Luke's story go nowhere. But the Leia story is pretty good, and the villains are very like fun mustache twirly villains. So, and it's also just like, if you haven't read, like, you know how like sometimes you have like a TV show that you stopped watching like 20 years ago because it got bad, and then you like pick up where you left off, and you were like, it's kind of nostalgic, but it's also kind of neat because it's new. You know what I mean? Almost like this movie.
Yeah.
where it's actually kind of neat because it's a, like, I don't want made for TV movies to still be made, but it is sometimes fun to go back and watch an old made for TV movie that I haven't seen. So it's like, so that's kind of where the Black Fleet Crisis is. It's where I am with a lot of expanded universe stuff. I've been like kind of revisiting it, and the bad stuff is even okay because it's not canon anymore. Like or if it is, or if even if I'm thinking about it in terms of how it impacted the rest of the books that come after or whatever, like those books already exist. The damage is done, so I'm not going to get mad. But I will say that the way that they tie up the Luke story, because it's really interesting, because it's Luke is trying to find out stuff about his mother, and this was written before the prequel trilogy.
Oh, so before Padme is
before Padme existed. And so, like, I was like, oh, maybe they'll do something interesting. Nope.
Similar to how Leia in episode 6 is like, oh, I remember my mother's smile.
Right.
And you're like, no, you don't.
You're
1 minute old.
Yep.
By a robot.
Yeah. Or how the one that always bothered me is that when Luke first gets to Dagobah, he talks about how he remembered, like, the place is familiar.
Yeah.
And there's like, so to me, that was always an implication that he was there as a baby or something. But no.
Right. No, it's because it was connected to the Force, and he's a Force user. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, Yoda is a 900-year-old human. While we're talking about fan theories, that's my one that I stick by from when I was a kid, and that's why he's got very bad osteoporosis. And yeah, he's not an alien. He's a human that's 900 years old. That's why he says when 900 years you reach, look as good you will not.
Yeah, but then we get the prequel trilogy, and you find out that 20 years before he trains Luke, he's flipping around fighting Count Dooku and Palpatine like a badass. He lost his touch real quick.
Hey, if you don't, what I learned from 40-year-old virgin, if you don't use it, you lose it.
True. And I mean, like, look at how much Obi-Wan aged in 17 years.
That was a hard 17 years.
That was a tough 17 years on Tatooine for our boy.
Yeah, I mean,
I made it back.
Oh, you were gone?
Welcome. Yeah, we were finishing our talk about the novel.
I wanted you to.
And how Yoda's an old human and not an alien.
Exactly.
I'm fine with that. We need whatever we can to talk about this movie, so it works for me.
The other one is that Obi-Wan and Owen are brothers.
I like that.
Which that's from the Return of the Jedi novel. There's an implication in the Obi-Wan TV series that he had a brother or something. Like he says something, and I was like, that's a reference to that. And I felt smart.
Cool.
Have we talked about the castle yet? Before I decided to vanish.
The castle was really awesome. When you were talking about that final battle, I was actually thinking about that scene where they're like leaving it and the Ewoks are retreating and you see the castle in the background. Like that was one of my favorite shots.
There's some good shots in here.
That is very funny that you say that, because I thought those castle shots looked horrible. I thought I started when they were running up to the castle, I started quoting Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Like that is what I thought it looked like, because they're running across that kind of empty grassy field. Like I was like, what is the airspeed velocity of a swallow? African or European? I don't know. I fought in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberry.
I should really watch those movies someday, because I don't understand your references, unfortunately.
Have you never seen those? That is wild.
Somehow.
Your gaps in movies is so shocking to me sometimes.
It's shocking to me too.
Like, how have you not seen this before?
That's happening.
So I will say for Monty Python, I mean, you can watch, if you like it, you can watch as much as you want, and there is good stuff all over. Holy Grail is like the only essential thing. All the references you've ever heard are from Holy Grail.
Okay, that's the one that I want to watch. Maybe I'll put it on the show and make myself finally watch it, but we'll see.
I'd come on that show as long as you're okay with me just incessantly quoting it, because I was one of those guys in high school.
I remember people quoting it. I just never watched it. But the thing with the castle, the reason why it got to me,
you must bring a shrubbery. Sorry,
it's just because it was that fantasy aspect of it, and I have a soft spot for that fantasy. I mean, that's what I enjoyed in this movie. And that's what it kind of made me think about. Man, this would have been fun had I known this as a kid.
Well, the one thing I really like about these movies too is that it shows you, because we know Endor, the forest moon of Endor from Return of the Jedi and stuff, but we only know that it's like a densely forested planet. We don't know that so much more is going on this moon. And I thought these two movies were really neat in showing how diverse it was. Yeah.
But there's no Yuzums. I was really hoping that we'd see some Yuzums. Because in the card game, Yuzums are native to Endor. But we don't see. I was really hoping that was a reference to the Ewoks, but no.
The Yuzums are just Cad Bane.
No, Cad Bane is a Duro. Yuzum is Joe Yowza.
Yeah.
The guy's like, Goodite!
Yep, the Cantina Band guy, or not the Jabba's Palace guy.
Yeah.
Who wasn't in the original movie? Then they added him in the damn special edition garbage crap.
Yep, one of the best scenes. It's great. I like that way better than Lapti Neck. Yeah. And it was cool. It was fun.
I was surprised. I like when they're about to release the witch, and then she's like, "No, she's evil," and they just leave her locked in the cell to die.
I did like that. And she throws the keys away. You know what we learn about the witch at the end? She turns into a bird, and at that point she weighs the same as a duck.
I don't understand what this is a reference to.
It's another Monty Python reference.
That's why I don't get it.
If she weighs the same as a duck, she's a witch.
Okay. I got nothing for that.
I
Then.
should not be laughing at making Monty Python quotes in the middle of this podcast, but that's
fine.
that's where I'm at.
How else are we gonna fill out the time to talk about a movie that people are like, "What the fuck is this?"
It's just the movie's like you can put it on in the background, maybe, or yeah, like I said, just play it and start your Ewok cover band. But no, it's got some moments. You're right. It's got some moments. I liked the speedster slipping the card up the guy's hand and up the guy's sleeve so that the guard thinks he's shooting and they shoot each other. That was a cool
funny.
Moment.
So we have to talk about how the blasters are inconsistent in this movie in itself. Like, you have the early scene where they are fucking murdering people. Then at one point, a guy gets shot in the foot and he's completely fine, other than he's hurting his foot. I'm like, I don't think your foot would be there if you got shot by a blaster, because those blasters, like, kill you.
Yep.
Well, but if your foot gets killed, I think
you're not limping away.
I think you can kill people with the bullet, but if you get shot in the foot with the bullet, then your foot doesn't disappear.
Fair enough, but this is a blaster.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hot energy. It's just hot plasma.
Okay, but they kill people a lot, and it's like, oh, I guess you get shot in the chest. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just remember he got shot in the foot, and I felt he should have been murdered, and he wasn't.
There's an incredible amount of death in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially like that scene when they're fighting because Noah's trying to repair the spaceship, and like Ewoks are just blasting dudes with arrows, and you just see them falling right and left. You're like, man, this is.
But they're bad guys. It's okay.
It was. I mean, it turned into the battle for Endor. It lived.
Hey, and they used blasters in this too, so they were proficient. They learned how to use blasters before Return of the Jedi came.
Yeah.
I didn't really think the one blaster that I think Sindel's dad had it, and then it shows up later, but it's super cool. It's almost like a old school pistol, like revolver looking one with like the hand, like the bandana wrapped around it. I thought that blaster looked super cool.
You did kind of, yeah.
So when you said the blasters were inconsistent, I thought it was interesting because in the first movie, there's sort of a theme of the kid's blaster not having that much charge to it.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was interesting how kind of everybody's blasters were not consistently charged. Like they'd get, 3 or 4 shots out of them and then they would be out, which is something we don't normally see, but would make sense since these are all like recovered.
Yep,
in my head canon, it was it was after the Battle of Endor, but because I actually literally thought his ship. So this is what I thought happened. Because I didn't realize this was before the Battle of Endor. I thought his ship was actually the remains of the bunker. The first time I saw it. And,
you didn't think his ship was part of the Death Star that just fell perfectly on the planet, so that way if you had a dagger, you could see where the piece was?
The shape of thousands of years old Sith dagger.
Look, it's the will of the Force. But no. I thought it was because I thought he was saying that there were a bunch of traps there. They were like left over from the battle. Like it would be like going to
that would make sense.
A minefield because he's like that. This is a dangerous area because of the traps. But I guess he was setting the traps.
But also,
I misunderstood it by the end.
This movie should take place after Return to Jedi. Like, I don't understand why when they were making this, they didn't go, let's just put it before. Like, why not just put it after? Because then nothing matters. Like, Wicket doesn't die.
Right.
And then them speaking English would be not as weird.
Yeah.
Because they know it.
The only thing that would be like arguable, you could say that it doesn't make sense for this to be out is probably after Return of the Jedi. There's some sort of like diplomatic relations between the rebellion and the Ewoks. Like so, there probably would be people that lived there. Maybe Chewbacca goes to live there. I don't know.
They go on a diplomatic mission to Endor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but so like the idea of this, so like this being sort of before, I guess it makes sense because they're the only people coming to the planet are these sort of scavengers. But the choice to have it take place before and also have the Ewoks speak English is questionable because the Ewoks were supposed to be like they're so like alien that C-3PO is pretty sure he knows the language, but he's not sure.
Hey, don't forget, Mace could speak Ewok in the first movie.
Oh, he could.
Yeah, he
Well,
understood them.
Eventually, if by the end he could.
He did figure it out. There, I remember that one scene when he just keeps repeating the same words. Like, yeah, he's gonna know what you mean this time.
Like food. We need food. I think, or was it medicine? I forget.
I think it was medicine.
Medicine.
When Sindel was sick.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And yeah, he just kept repeating it. It's like, yeah, they're gonna get it this time, buddy.
Insanity. That's how it works, though. So I'll buy it.
Yep.
It's also how racism works. Because because there's definitely that's a thing. But
yeah. And Star Wars isn't new to racism either. So
nope. Look at the Nemoidians.
There's a lot in the prequels and the Tusken Raiders.
Even Watto.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
I will say that I think that a lot of the grief that the prequels get for the racist caricatures, I think it's like, I mean, it's, it's good to acknowledge that there's some problematic stuff in there, but I do think it's like multi-layers. Like, I think the Nemoidians are reminiscent of Japanese, because they're based on like Japanese villains in Flash Gordon cartoons. Like it's like they're based on a racist caricature, but they're not based on, it's not directly being a racist. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Does that make sense? It's like racial. It's like once removed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's playing into they're playing into tropes, and those tropes are sort of involve some racist caricature, but I don't think it's quite as malicious as maybe people make it out to be. Like the Nemoidians, although it is like othering. I think the biggest issue is actually when the humans are the good guys and the aliens are the bad guys. I think that's where it's most problematic, just because it's othering.
Yeah.
These people are different and therefore they're bad. But yeah, I think there's. And I mean, Watto, Watto's a freaking big nose, cheapo guy with an accent. Although, some people see him as being more Russian. Some people see him as being more Armenian. And so
then they the Clone Wars and have him wearing that hat and stuff when Anakin talks to him, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff, and I mean, even like Jar Jar Binks. That's based on just a random one-off accent that Ahmed Best did, and so it's whatever. I don't want to like completely apologize for stuff, but it's also like it just kind of is what it is. And then I kind of that's where I liked in the Acloyte when they introduced Nemoidians, and they just were like, okay, well, they're not Japanese anymore. They just speak with like a regular, like with like a flat Midwestern accent or whatever they were. I kind of liked that.
I'm still upset that Acloyte didn't get a second season.
Oh, me too. That show was awesome.
Well, it ended on a cliffhanger, and I don't get my answer.
We'll get it eventually. They'll make a comic about it, or they'll make a movie about it, or they'll make a book about it. There already is an Acloyte novel, prequel novel that came out.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting piece too. Like the era that we're in of like creating that media. Because like when you look at like when this movie was made, right? This is a TV movie. There's nothing about it. There's nothing to continue the story. There's no books. There's no comics. There's nothing. And now it's like we put these movies on, and they're like, oh, you want to know more about this? Check out the comic books. Check out the books.
Right.
Like the biggest one that sticks out to me is like Captain Phasma, right? Like she's useless in the movies, and then there's books about her, and you're like, okay, she's a badass. I get this.
Well, that's just Star Wars in a nutshell. A lot of times, where like you look at like the prequels. The prequels are I did not enjoy them from 2 to 3. When you think about like how quickly Anakin changes, then you get 7 seasons of Clone Wars. Like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like little things. So Star Wars is good about going back in time and making things better.
Yeah,
I guess.
And that's everything. That is the reason that Star Wars is my fandom. Like it's like people were talking about Andor being like, oh, once you watch Andor, then it completely recontextualizes a lot of stuff from A New Hope, and it's like, how come that's a good with Andor, but when I say that about Clone Wars, about Revenge of the Sith, then you're mad that Revenge of the Sith doesn't stand on its own up to your standards, and it wasn't even just Clone Wars. It was the Clone Wars novels and the comics that came out in between. It was the Tartakovsky series. There's so much. There's so much extra Star Wars media, and not that you have to read all of it, not that you have to consume all of it, but the fact that it's all there. So if you want to know more, you can explore that aspect of it. Like, that's what makes it Star Wars. Like Star Wars is not just. I mean, it's 3 movies, and then it's A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Maybe it's just A New Hope. Maybe you're and if you want it to be just that, that's fine. But I think if you go much beyond that, I mean, if you like the first 6 movies and that's all you need, or if you like the movies and that's all you need, that's fine. But if you feel like those movies miss something, if you feel like you're missing something from those movies, there's so much out there to find, so much additional context to find, and so much, and that is what differentiates Star Trek or Star Wars. Star Trek is actually similar. There is that, except for Star Trek it's all in the show. But that's what's different from between Star Wars and, I don't know, Die Hard or the Fast and the Furious or whatever. One of Mission Impossible. With these other sort of long running Indiana Jones. These other sort of long running franchises that people are huge fans of. There's only so much of it. Although there are, the Doctor Who has a lot of supplemental stuff, and the other difference is that some of the supplemental stuff in Star Wars is good. If you read like the Ghostbusters comics, they're terrible. A lot of that.
IDW Ghostbusters crossover is good though. I read those, or at least the first one.
They've all live in New York. Why wouldn't they encounter one another?
I read IDW did a zombie crossover with Ghostbusters but it was like all the different. It was called Infestation, and it was Ghostbusters, and I think there was, I don't remember what, Transformers was one of them. It was when IDW had Transformers, and it was horrible.
All right. Any last things we should say about Battle for Endor?
Yeah, we've gotten.
I got nothing. Okay. The one last thing, you talked about the poster at the beginning.
Yes.
Who's the guy on the poster?
Let me pull it up. I don't look at it. I assumed it was one of the Marauders.
No, the guy in the center with a blaster that's a human.
Oh, I thought that was supposed to be Mace, but that's not Mace.
Is it Mace? He dies in the first 10 seconds.
Right.
Is it Wilford Brimley? It doesn't look like Wilford Brimley.
I think that's supposed to be the father that also dies in the first 10 minutes.
Is it the father? Like, why is
the father.
he the centerpiece? Like, you
have a point. I don't understand, but you have a point.
Yeah, that's
why I thought like maybe the kid was supposed to be, maybe Mace was supposed to be in it, and at the last minute he backed out or something.
But like that poster is so weird because like I think you're right. That is supposed to be the father, but that does not look like Paul
the father
Gleason
at all. And the father dies. I mean, everybody dies.
They all died 10 minutes into the movie, and then it's just Sindel and Wicket.
It's a weird fucking movie.
It really is. Like the pacing is weird. Just everything about it is just bizarre. It's like one of those like fever dream movies almost at parts.
I wish it was more that though. Like it's more that it's just kind of slow. Like it's the most, I would say, of all the Star Wars, of all the Star Wars streaming content available on Disney Plus, it's the thing I would least recommend.
Isn't the Ewoks TV show on Star Wars?
I haven't watched the Ewoks TV show.
Yeah, so you wouldn't recommend that.
Show I find to be kind of like the droids. The thing about the droid show, and probably this is true about the Ewok show, is that it's a cheesy Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s, which there's an audience for that, and there are instances that make that better, and there are ways, there are times that I'm in the mood for that. Sometimes I do just want to watch old Saturday morning cartoons. This is not that. Like I can't see myself, again, the only context that I can see myself liking this is,
I think we go to should we go to Shelf Stacker Box?
The The only context I can see like
Still
this
there?
is editing it together into music, editing together some of the action scenes into like a music video or
I mean,
thing to play like in the background. Like I think some of the visuals, but I don't recommend this.
You've got a band. Put it together. I'll watch that on YouTube.
I don't really currently have a band. I had a fake band for a while, but yeah.
I've watched the "We Are the Champions" video probably 10 times. There's like a high percentage of views that are me because that's a great video.
I appreciate that. Yeah. This is a box. This is a box.
Not even gonna wait. Kendall's going first. I will also be putting this in the box because the first one was way better. I'll never watch this again. It's fine. I'm glad I watched it, but I'm glad I don't have to watch it again.
And yeah, like I said, legitimately 100% without any irony or tongue in cheek or trying to be contrarian, I do think that the holiday special is more entertaining than this. Like this was just again, it was just like nothing. Like I'm kind of upset that it's yeah.
Like I wasn't invested in this one. I think we lost Mike. Oh, yep.
We lost Mike again. Yeah. Mike says it's on my shelf. I'm going to watch it every day because my wife says it's their favorite Star Wars movie.
Just be on an infinite loop in the background of his house from now until the end of time.
I returned. Wasn't
Shelf stack or box, Mike?
Shot at my cabin after I grabbed my stack. You know what? Box. I watched this again, even though I didn't hate it, but box. I changed my mind. Box.
Yeah, I mean,
did you guys go while I was disappeared in the ether?
Yeah, I think we're both on box. I made it clear that I thought the holiday special was better. Holiday special is a shelf.
All right. I guess we'll just go my internet. Kendall, where can you find?
So you can find everything I do at kendallcast.ninja, also Kendallcast Network or I think it's Kendallcast Network on YouTube. I do lots of Star Wars card content. My current project is called Corin's Questions, where people are answering top Star Wars card players are answering questions about how to get better at the Star Wars customizable card game. And then we've been doing the Pull List Book Club on the Pull List feed, which is where Jared and I, instead of just talking about the current books, current comics, we talk about a different sort of important comic. We just did the first 3 volumes of Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis. And then the other project that I'm kind of focused on right now is called Beyond Bulbasaur. Beyond Bulbasaur is a somewhat long-running podcast where I talk about a different Pokemon every week. And more recent episodes, we've delved into video, and the video is me doing a fan art of the Pokemon that I'm talking about for 5 or 10 minutes. And I don't know if anybody watches them, but it's like one of my favorite things that I do. So yeah, you can find those on wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, check it out, people. Kendall makes good content.
He does. I'm also on some of those Beyond Bulbasaurs. I come on from time to time. Some of that, I'm on there somewhere in the archives.
Yep.
All right.
You did the March Madness episodes the last 2 years.
Yes, and it'll be 3 years next year. So I'm assuming you'll do it again. If you're like me, once you start something, you just can't stop. That's me. Yep. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, over 800 other episodes of this podcast, we do movies, TV shows, video games, comics, all sorts of content. If you want to hear all our other Star Wars content, you will see a link in the show notes to everything we've done Star Wars. There's a fuck ton, so that will all be accessed to you in the show note. If you want to find the other episodes we've done, go on Podbean. You can search anything. You never know what we've done, because there's a lot in those 800 and some episodes. There's a lot of content. I've done a sports show. We did a Patreon vote. Now you can vote in our Patreon poll. We have 1 to 2 polls a month, currently 2. So go check that out. If you want to be on the show, if you want to suggest things for the show, if you want to lurk, we have a Discord. Please join our Discord. It's free. I'm always happy to have new people chat with us and just join. And I want to give a shout out my awesome intro and outro courtesy to Helena at Hell Has Free. Follow her on TikTok and Instagram. And check out A Gamer Looks at 40 with Bill Tucker. And also check out absolutely the best podcast of Work in Progress. They talk about the MC movies and MCU adjacent movies. And please follow us on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, audio only. Rate and reviews over each podcast. I think it's everything I need to say, so we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.
Gotta go to work.